AquaFish is a livestock-only aquarium store located in Northeim, Germany, about 1 hour south of the northwestern city of Hanover. I am told that this store is not a typical aquarium store in Germany. The building is an opaque glass-roofed structure added onto a garage. The entire room is lit naturally by the sunlight streaming through the ceiling. The approximately 50-gallon aquariums are all uniform in size, rimless, and racked using only cinder block on the floor and stacked 4x4s between the tanks. That is a level of German engineering that I find amazing. It is evident that AquaFish is set up much like a hobbyist fish room. All the tanks are filtered by air-driven sponge filters, and the temperature is controlled in the room, not by heaters in each aquarium. A few minutes is all it takes to realize that the quality of the fish here is exceptional, and that the owner cares a lot about the health of her fish. It is hard to compare AquaFish to a typical store in the USA. First, the species mix is very different. Although there are a few fancy strains of fish at AquaFish, the vast majority are wild or wild-type color forms. This may be due in part to the owner, who is very much a hobbyist who probably prefers wild-looking fish. But I have been assured that the hobby in Germany is overall oriented towards the non-fancy varieties. Secondly, the health and quality at AquaFish is the priority. All the livestock is well fed and active. I see very few small, malformed, or shy fish. I did not see any dead or sick fish at all. In fact, if I have to criticize AquaFish for one thing, it is that many of the fish are large and possibly older than what I personally like to buy. I had hoped to see a lot of species here that we cannot get in America, but I was a little disappointed in that. However, there are a lot of species at AquaFish that we very rarely or ever see in pet stores in the United States. We generally have to get them through the mail from specialty dealers on the internet. I was very impressed with the variety of fish from West Africa. I guess that it is a lot easier to import fish from there into Europe, where the flights can get the fish to the importers in a shorter amount of time. But the West African fish are far outnumbered by those from the rest of the world. So there is probably a lot of truth to the old saw that since the Europeans will pay more for fish, the more interesting and expensive species are sent to Europe. Another big difference between Europe and the USA is that in Europe there are a lot of fish breeders who produce rare species for sale in stores. Most of these businesses are located in what was formerly the Eastern Bloc nations, and when the Iron Curtain came down, many of these fish were made available to the West. But the days of plenty are ending. Back when Eastern Europe was under the socialist influence, the cost of water and energy was very cheap. After reunification, the cost of breeding fish in Eastern Europe went up and continues to do so. Many of the fish at AquaFish, especially the dwarf cichlids, are still produced in Eastern Europe, but they are no less expensive and often more so than the wild fish of the same species. What really matters, to me anyway, is that there is actually a store like AquaFish being successful somewhere in the world. If I could open another store, I would love to have the freedom to be able to sell only fish and plants, but that is unrealistic for 99.9% of retailers. AquaFish is special. Basically, this store is an extension of a person's hobby and has the low overhead cost of being located at a residence. It would be fun to run a store like this in the USA. If for no other reason than to see if it is possible to do it profitably. I did my part to keep AquaFish in business. I managed to leave 150 euros behind, but I did make it home with some species that I have been wanting to get for a while. I bought a group of true Corydoras cystatus. For some reason, every time we import that species into the USA, the fish that arrives is not Corydoras cystatus. It's usually Corydoras pygmaeus. I suspect that the ones I bought here in Germany are tank raised, which is not a problem. I also bought about a dozen Paraostronymus oscillata, which is a somewhat rare licorice gourami. These I know were wild collected, and we can get them in the USA, but they are also a sensitive species, and those here at AquaFish are in such excellent condition that I could not pass them up. I also purchased 4 young adults of the true checkerboard cichlid Quiniquera punctulata. This species is known to be a sequential hermaphrodite. If the dominant male dies, the most dominant female will become a male. I ended up passing on all the other dwarf cichlids, not because I did not want them, but because they were all adults, and I had limited space in my luggage. I wish that AquaFish had sold juveniles. Well, I have pretty much run out of things to say about AquaFish, but there is still a lot of video to see, so time for a musical interlude.